All right, in three, two, one. Bonjour, everyone. Hello. Good morning. Good evening. Good night, wherever you are in the world. I meant to say good afternoon, but you get the point. And welcome to another episode of the Conflict Management Podcast, MMA podcast that we do. It is I, the awkward, awesome one, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Main Event. Not number three, not number two. Why? Because I'm number one. Have you heard of WrestleMania, my friends? Well, this is Malik Mania. Come along for the ride. It's going to be great. I'm amped up. UFC Paris. We're talking about the Salt Lake City one coming up. It is your boy Malik Miles, one of the hosts, and the other host.
Yeah, Malik Mania is running wild, but we're also here with the Hall of Famer who only has one namer. It's Edon back at you again. And we're going to come back to the Paris card before we head forward to Salt Lake
Mhm,
because UFC ran it back in Paris and another good turnout, another good show.
mhm.
It seems like the rate at which they're giving Paris these shows, they have plenty of appetite for them. The arena keeps filling up. They're there early, and they keep supporting their boys.
And a good night for the French fighters. 4-2. That's like I think each, if I'm not mistaken, each Paris card, UFC Paris card, has turned out like a good showing for the French fighters. And I will say this right now: the French crowd is easily top three best crowds in the UFC.
Oh yeah,
I think.
and they do keep developing it every time they
Mhm,
keep going back to Paris. They're not switching it around to different cities, so you do get the kind of expectation and the kind of
mhm,
ritual buildup that the
mhm.
Paris and that arena specifically. It's everybody knows what to do and when to do it, and they're all kind of on song.
Because the energy of the crowd, how much like the energy they give, how much they cheer for their home guys and girls. You know what I mean? Like the energy of the crowd, the like you can feel it. You know what I mean? It's like it feels electric in the crowd. They're singing, they're stomping their feet, they're carrying people on their shoulders. People are sitting on people's shoulders, cheering and shouting for their hometown heroes. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Um, I feel like top three crowds in the UFC is probably the French crowd, the when they go to UFC Paris, the British crowd, from when they go
Mm.
and do any of the UK cards, and then I would say the crowd that comes for UFC Noche. The UFC Noche crowd is also another really like where you get a lot of good vibes. You know what I mean? Like they're the loudest crowds, the ones that be giving the most, shouting, cheering, screaming. You know what I mean? Like just really giving the energy for it, consistently.
Mm.
Because I don't think I've ever seen one where it's like in any of those events where it's like just low energy, where they're just like, "Mm." you
Yeah.
know,
No,
it's
I
a
mean, those events are really, and those crowds in particular are definitely exceptional. I still think like they have the consistency of it, but that first show uh during the pandemic back in Jacksonville,
mhm.
that to
Oh
me was
man.
the most like high level peak crowd
Hmm.
experience as far as everybody just was looking for something and the
Hmm.
UFC was like we're that thing and
And
everyone was there from second one ready to pop for anything.
And there was a bunch of knockouts that night. Like if I remember correctly,
Mm.
knockouts, submission finishes. The crowd was going crazy. You know who also was another great crowd? The Brazilian crowd. Whenever they go to like Brazil, the energy is also really peak there too, and it's you get really good energy from the. You know what I would like to see. You know
Mm.
what I would like to see, my friend. I would like to see a UFC back in Japan.
Yeah.
Like it's been a very long time. The bringing it back to where it started. The like where like the home of karate, the home of judo, the samurai warrior spirit. You know what I mean? Um, and I think Tatsuro Tai can do that if he can beat Randy Royale. I know we're jumping a little ahead, but I'm gonna bring us right back in a second.
Mm.
But
Well, that's the
this,
thing is you got the guys now, and it's I think isn't Japan also technically the home of jujitsu because there's Japanese
yeah,
jujitsu, and
and
then
Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
the takeoff on that was Brazilian jujitsu.
Yeah, and then because for the longest time we haven't had they went to Paris once they had a Cyril gone. They
Mm.
had Manon Fiorot, sorry, Nasruddin Imavov. They had um what's his name? Morgan Charrier,
Mhm.
who we're going to talk about in a little bit, who had an amazing performance. You had Gomez, they had a lot of, you can stack on a card like that. And for the longest time, a lot of times when Japanese fighters come to the UFC in the past, like, there's been stars like, your Takanori Gomis, uh, Yoshihiro Akiyama, Yushin Okami, you know what I mean? Like, other and Machida and all the
Mm.
but a lot of them well Machida made it, but like it did they kind of came towards the end of their careers, like Gomi, uh Okami,
Mm.
Akiyama, all of them were kind of like Kid Yamamoto were kind of like in the fall of their career, you know what I mean? Like if you were looking at winter, summer, spring, you know what I mean? And there for a long time there wasn't anybody. But now we got Tatsuro Taira, you got what, the hybrid, what's his name? What's his name? The wrestler boxer guy. I know his name and it's probably
There was the
excuse
guy
me,
that
sorry.
they just
Huh?
signed from. I
He
think he was
was
at
the Growth
Ryzen.
UFC winner. Huh?
There was the guy from Ryzen that they signed. I think
Yeah. Ray
there's Tyra.
Suruya. I think
Yeah.
that was because Ray Suruya that he's there. And there's another one. I'm gonna kick myself for not remembering. Apologies in advance, running off of 2 hours of sleep, but we still amp, we running off this coffee and espresso. Yeah, but yeah, there's and watch me remember as soon as we finish talking about this too. But now, if I'm not mistaken, there are three undefeated Japanese prospects with Tatsuro Taira, the Japanese sensation, kind of like leading the charge. Um, and if I'm not mistaken, both Rei Suruya and I cannot remember his name. They call him the hybrid, but he's undefeated. He's dominated. He's like Justin Gaethje, really top tier wrestler who U20 champion. All those kind of he has really high wrestling accolades,
Mm.
but prefers to just throw down and get down like how Justin Gaethje does. And um, so I think that if Tyra can push past Roy Val, he will be the first Japanese champion, the first Japanese fighter to become champion. Um, and they'll have a reason to go back to Japan. Um, the exciting time, um, and be one of the youngest. He's a young dude. There's a lot. There's a potential for that. So that could be really exciting. But circling back to UFC Paris, we was talking about when they started this UFC Paris, like going to Paris a few years ago. Your Cyril Gons, your like who kind of like sold out the show. You had your Nasruddin Imavovs, your Manan Firoz, and then I almost doubled. You're gonna double check. His name was Morgan Charrier, right? I know it's Charrier.
Mm.
Let's see. Does double check. A little real quicker with quick checkeroo. Let's see. Yeah, Morgan Charrier. Okay, cool. I had it right. That guy had a performance. That dude consistently puts on. This is his second win in a row in Paris. That first one, that liver kick, kind of like that kick to the body was just like boom, and started off the night amazingly. Came into this fight as well. Followed up an amazing knee to the head by like Ferris Zayam. Like that was crazy hip flexibility to knock out Matt Favola. But then to follow it up, I was like, oh man, he's exciting. The Last Pirate, that's also a really cool nickname. He came in there. Um, but before I get too far down along it, what was your thoughts on that fight, the Morgan Charrier fight versus Gabriel Miranda?
I thought it was really good. I mean, it's been a couple times now that Charrier has had that Paris opportunity, and he keeps, he's getting set up in the moment to be the hometown guy who goes out there with the big explosive performances. and he keeps delivering. So it's, I mean, this kind of reminds me of where I was a little bit ago with like the other kind of young, exciting guys who come into the sport, like when Bo Nickel first got in and he had this first like 2 or 3 wins, and it's like, okay, it's this guy's running through people. I think I think we're ready for the step up now. I think, you know, it's he's definitely got and showcasing a super fun style and great ability at the same time. It's He's 28 years old. He's got 31 fights on his pro record. I mean, it's I know he had the one split decision loss uh, back in April, but other than that, it's been all and the way the way and the kind of style he fights, those losses get forgotten super easy. So it's maybe something a little more high profile. I mean, I know a guy's, he's had 3 UFC fights. 2 of them have been spectacular knockouts. He did have the one split decision loss, uh, but it's I think maybe we step him back up again and we see like maybe not a ranked guy yet, but maybe somebody who presents an interesting challenge to him. Because
Mhm.
guys who are good matchups for him, he's going to pass that test.
Yeah, because side note really quick, I remembered his name. The Japanese fighter was trying to remember.
Mhm.
Rinya Nakamura.
Yes.
So yes, there it is. So Tatsuro Taira, Rinya Nakamura, Rei Tsuruya, Yusaku Kinoshita, like those four, I feel like for that's a main card. That's four
Yeah.
fights. Um, I feel like Japanese MMA is coming back. Is coming strong. I guess it's the revival of it. It's coming strong. A lot of young fighters who are coming up. Yeah, they're doing big things. Very excited for Kyra and Nakamura and Surya and all of them. But yes, I just remembered. I just had to bring it up because I was like, oh man, I just remembered that we passed along. But yes, I do think Morgan Charrier's had he brings an excitement to featherweight where his because of maybe like his fight style, really cool name, really cool like nickname. Charrier is just really it's fun to say, and he comes out there just come out like a ball of lightning. He's coming out with a really good striking. The slip, like this fight, because I think this fight with Miranda that I was looking at, and I was thinking like, okay, Miranda looks as he was you could tell he was heavily depending on the grappling and the jujitsu to kind of like get the win from. And then when you see like the traditional striker versus grappler match, like how's it going to go? Because yes, he had an exciting first knockout, right? Like a body kick where we were both like, man, I'm trying to see more of this dude fight. And then I was like, oh, let's see how he does against a grappler on like a big stage like UFC Paris. And he passed with flying colors. You saw really nice slips, dodges. What I mean? He was like, get him out of here. And his takedown defense, really great takedown defense, right? When you saw him kind of like because Miranda was really going for it, trying to pull into guard, trying to go for takedowns. He went for the judo, he went for the ogoshi, like the major hip throw, where you try to grab the wrist and kind of reach around to the side, get that like side hug action, like the real friend zone hug. You know what I mean? Get
Mhm.
that wrist control and kind of go for the hip and try to go for the kick and almost got him. But Sherry's takedown offense was way better than I thought. You obviously as an MMA mixed martial artist, you're gonna train in all disciplines, but you're gonna have it once you kind of like lean more towards what you prefer, where you specialize in, and like because if I'm not mistaken, he was like 3 for 3 or 4 for 4 on takedown defense. Because there was a couple of times where they went for takedowns and he kind of stuffed them all, which was very good. I was very excited
Mhm.
for. I was pulling for Morgan Sherry in this fight, and I was like, man, I'm really hoping he like pass this. And you saw him even at the end of the first round where he's like dodging, slipping. He's like, nah, back up off me, back up off me. And then leading into the second round when they're striking, and The moment that kind of sealed the deal, Miranda goes for another kind of like, I don't know what he was going for. It looked like he was going for another judo toss. Maybe kind of like he was trying to hit something because he went for the kick and it went and it was a botch throw. Left his hands were kind of low up the side. Morgan Sherry turns around, whoosh, hit him with the hook, sleep him. Um, it was it was definitely exciting because I was watching it like, oh, so yeah, putting two exclamation points on it. I think that they continue to have him on the UFC Paris cards. I think everyone he has a fight style that makes people want to watch, makes people are interested in the scene. He has a lot of energy. The way he got the French crowd like riled up, like yeah. Afterwards, like he's an entertaining guy, really exciting dude, fun to watch. Um, so he was the opener, I think last time, right? If I'm not mistaken. Second fight this time. Maybe he's the third fight next time. Maybe even like one away from the co-main. You know what I mean? I think that would be cool to see. Um, I was was happy with this performance, looking forward to it. Another person that was like that I felt was also who also was very had an entertaining fight, who got the crowd riled up in a different way. This man went full I don't even know what you would call it, full heel. He came in full Roman Reigns head of the table, like, hey, I'm about to cut this promo, this heel promo, and you gonna like it or not. He came in full I don't even know what else you would call it. I'm trying to think of other heels that I throughout in general.
I would
But
say
yeah,
in terms of style, because like the more famous heels, you
mhm,
would say had a had a more kind of eloquent, maybe
mhm,
uh, kind of style to it. This felt like an older one where the business hadn't been blown up yet to the point where
mhm,
they're doing arenas and they have good audio setups. It's This one
mhm.
felt more like a 1980s kind of,
Like boxing champion, kind of boxer on the rise,
well,
kind of,
almost like Ric
or
Flair
yeah,
type
Ric
of
Flair,
deal,
yeah.
where he's got the
That's what I was looking
microphone
for.
and the
Yeah,
audience
yeah,
can hear him, but the audience when they're loud, they can also kind of affect the microphone because
yeah. Hmm.
the audio is not that great. So it's a lot of like yelling because you need to
Hmm.
be louder than the crowd. Whereas kind of later when the business got bigger,
Hmm.
they could
Because
almost just talk into the microphone and be kind of more like a movie almost in terms
hmm.
of having a monologue. Whereas
Hmm.
Brian Battle was more like talking over the crowd and making sure he got his words in the loudest in a
And even
80s kind of big style.
yeah, even after the fight, even before we started talking, went for the knockout and really because this is what I will say before we get to. But we'll finish this first, and then we'll go back to a little bit of the how the rundown of the fight was. He definitely cut like a WWE, WWF kind of like promo, which we're here for. Like we talk about,
Yes.
like we're like whether you're playing the heel or playing the face, where you're playing the hero or playing the villain, this is your time. You got 15 seconds to talk to the world. Make it interesting. Make us want to see your next fight. Make us care. Do something. Make us feel something. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
be interesting. This is your moment. The world is watching. What will you use your 15 seconds for? What will you say? And he cut a very like we would say WWF WWE promo. He cut like the boxer on the come up during like he was just like, hey, um, but even before then, even after he got the TKO stoppage, he's flipping off the crowd. He was getting booed going into the ring. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I guess he kind of really leaned into the heel because he was like, okay, you're going into like enemy territory. You're going like the guy you're fighting is French. You're in a French crowd. There was two crazy knockouts by French fighters to begin the fight. So the crowd is like really cheering for their like hometown heroes, and then you come out, yeah, obviously you're gonna boo you because they're like, hey, you're not our guy. You know, our guy just can't. We're gonna go for our guy. It's like if you are a uh what's it called? If you are a I'm trying to think what's a good team, like a Green Bay Packers going against the Chicago Bears,
Mm,
and you're playing in Green Bay, you might get booed if you the Bears. Y'all are
yeah,
rivalry. Yes, you're a good team. People enjoy the Bears, but if you're playing Green Bay in Green Bay, you might get booed. If you're playing like or Bears and or you're the Chicago Bears and you're playing in Chicago against Green Bay, or you're like the Carolina Panthers playing against maybe like the Buccaneers, you know what I mean? Like in Carolina, you know what I mean? Or like the Raiders, you playing the Raiders in Oakland. I mean, not Las Vegas Raiders, but like you know what I mean? Like you're playing whatever the rivalry game, but if you're playing the home crowd's gonna go for the home team. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And you saw Brian Battle really lean into the heel of being like, "Oh, y'all were gonna boo me to begin with, so might as well lean in." And he leaned all the way in, like you in the Delta seat, and you said, "I'm gonna lean this seat all the way back. I'm gonna recline till you hit the knees." Because he came in after the knockout, start flipping off the crowd. The crowd was booing him after he won, and so he started flipping off the crowd. He's blowing kisses to the crowd after flicking them, like giving them the bird. Then get on the mic and be and that Vance was talking spicy.
I know, but it felt kind of older in that
Yeah.
he didn't do, especially nowadays when a fighter has a chance to go against the crowd. It's usually very R
Tame.
rated,
Oh.
whereas
Mhm.
his there wasn't really a lot of like bad language
Yeah.
necessarily. I mean, it was big energy, but you could air that
Mhm.
at like 10 in the morning on a kids wrestling show.
Yeah. And that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
Which it was because he was like, "You really thought the butcher was gonna lose in a fist fight to a French dude?" in, while you're in Paris, France, fighting in like a French stadium with a French home crowd, like yo, like, and to say that like 4 or 5 times in a row, like he kept on repeating, the crowd was like boo, and he was like, "You really thought the butcher was gonna lose?" Like that's why it felt very like WWE. You know, like if you're the heel, like you're like, let's say the baby face of the hero, you're getting ready for SummerSlam, and it's in the like the hero's like home city um of like Los Angeles, California, and you like, "Hey, Los Angeles, you really thought your guy was gonna come out here? You was gonna come out and cheer. You had the signs out. You was like, wow, oh man, you was hyped for him. And you know why? You know what? Screw all of your signs. Forget all of your signs. And you know what happened? You thought your guy was gonna win? No,
I
I'm
will
winning.
say I do fall super hard for and get a really big smile on my face when the heel comes out in someone else's town and does the cheapest, like easiest kind of heel move possible. Be like,
Yeah,
"It's good to be here in the garbage capital of the world," and then says the name of the city. I don't know why that always
yeah.
just makes me smile. It's
And
so
like, and
childish. There's nothing like really to it. He doesn't mean it. It's not
yeah,
personal at
exactly.
all. He's
I think
just
it's
easy, like cheap heat.
yeah, like he literally doesn't mean it. Like he's like, I guess like, just trying to like, maybe you're feeling the adrenaline of the moment. You're like, hey, like, because he said it earlier, like, y'all boo me. The boos only make me stronger. People have been booing me since my career started. Getting booed away from in another country ain't gonna phase me. Oh, and then like you even saw the translator be like, "Hey, you really want me to say this?" Like, but no, it's he had a big moment. I was kind of nervous for him. I was like, "Hey, bro, you still have to walk through the crowd to get back to the
Yeah.
back.
Well, and the other
They
thing
might
is,
toss wine on you."
it's been a few days, so I don't remember if he did or not. But if he called somebody out, I don't remember it. That was
I don't
not the
think he
most
did.
memorable thing to
Yeah,
me.
because I think the most memorable moment of that post fight interview was, "You thought the
Yeah.
butcher was gonna lose in a fist fight," and you know what's crazy? I gave the first round to Josette.
Mm,
Like when the to the French fighter Josette, like because this is how I saw the fight going down, right?
right.
Going into the second round. I gave it 10-9 for Josette. And then in the second round, I gave that to Brian Battle. Like the
Mm,
first round was a close back and forth, right? I thought it was a
right.
close round. And I thought if we're looking at the whole scope of the fight leading up to the finish, I think Josette was the stronger fighter, like the fighter with the more power, the stronger, like the more strength behind it, like the power behind the punches. But I felt like Battle had the speed advantage. Like he was the quicker fighter, the more volume fighter. You know what I mean? Like while Josette had the power, Battle had the speed and the volume. You know what I mean? Like the
Mm,
volume of punches he was throwing and the speed what he was throwing at it was just starting to overwhelm Josette. Like Josette was hitting him, and it was you could tell it was like making making impact. You know, he had the more power behind the punch, but if you're getting hit with 4 or 5 in a row, it was just like da 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 da. But the back and forths were nice though. I was
yeah.
enjoying the back and forth battles.
And Giuseppe did a better job on the numbers, at least, of
Mhm,
changing his target. So like he did a really good job of mixing in the leg kicks with a little bit of
mhm,
body work and still the hands. Whereas Battle only had one leg kick that he threw
mhm,
the whole time. It's the rest of it was all to the body and to the head. And especially like once the finish started going, he
mhm,
went nuts on the head. But it's I agree. I thought the first round was like, okay, this is like a back and
mhm,
forth entertaining fight. You can see why the matchmakers put this one together. This is going to be a big kind of drawn out one where we go the full 15 minutes and whoever wins had to really dig it out. And then it's just in the second one, it's like you said, that speed advantage. He hit him a couple too many times, and once Jusette started to get in trouble a little bit, Battle turned it on and showed good finishing instincts.
mhm. And once he felt the end was near, he really kind of let it on him and kind of was just like do 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 do. Another person who was hitting someone with that do 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 and really put it on him and was uh talking real spicy as well. Our main event, Moni Moicano versus BSD Benoit Saint Denis, the special forces guy.
So
Uh,
I have a question about this
mhm,
because I I didn't watch the main event live.
mhm,
It's I got interrupted and had to go do something else, and then I knew
mhm,
the result when I came back and watched. So to me, I was super surprised watching this fight, even though I knew the result, just because I didn't ne- at no point when I was like thinking about how this fight would go, I never predicted Marcano was going to get the takedown that easy in the first.
mhm.
And it it seemed like either BSD wasn't ready for that, which I don't understand how that would even be possible, or maybe the technique and the speed at which he did it surprised him because I wouldn't think in the first round against a guy who everybody is going to tell you has the grappling advantage and you get taken down in the first 15, 20 seconds. I mean that
About
yeah,
so yeah.
that's crazy to not be on alert right from the start. And that's before you even get to knowing that he had the injury afterwards, which if you go back and watch it, it's super obvious now when you're
Mhm.
looking for it. But at the time nobody was saying anything.
Yeah, and I think going into it, I think Moicano implemented the perfect plan for that fight. Because we all know, like BSD, um, is a bad dude. You know what I mean? Like you only get the three initials if you a bad man, like you are like like a real fighter, like um Saint Denis, like he's everyone who knows. If you know, you know, right? Like Saint Denis is very explosive. He's explosive. He's quick. He's strong. He's aggressive. He's coming out the gate. You know what I mean? Like looking to put away guys. He's made it up to this point, putting away guys. Also, fun fact that I feel like people just kind of sometimes gloss over. He's a former special forces guy. That means he's like that. Like he's
Mm.
official. um so going into it, he's going to strike. He's going to put on a show. You know what I mean? And Moicano can put on a show, but he is at his core a grappler, jiu-jitsu guy. And Saint Denis is coming to use that explosive striking style to really put an exclamation point on this Paris card, you know. But I think that knowing that, Moicano implemented the perfect plan of like, okay, when I see that opportunity, go for the takedown, be very top heavy, make him work, kind of try to build up that lactic acid, build like make him tired. You know what I mean? Make him carry, make him fight off his back, use up some of that explosive energy, use up some of that energy. So and kind of like break him down. So in the second round, it's not that like super quick, like fast twitch. Oh man, like I'm coming with the crazy knockout power, right? Because I think that, sorry, I think that a lot of people who have never wrestled before don't realize how exhausting it is to be on the bottom, or how exhausting it is to wrestle in general. But especially if you're on the bottom trying to scramble your way up or trying to fight your way up, and you're doing this, you're going back and forth, like, and in wrestling, you're not getting hit. But like Moicano was very top heavy, very the top
Yeah.
heavy pressure from the top, just landing the elbows repeatedly and just bloop, bloop, just dropping those shots on him. So you're using up all this energy to try to get up off your back, but then also you're catching these elbows. It's making it hard for you to get up. And then he's also like hooking the leg. He's also trying to like keeping you down, make him get in that body trauma, maybe try to get like the just punches going down on you and cut him open pretty big, right? And just kind of was implementing his style of like, hey, even if you get up, I'm gonna use up as much of this energy so you don't have the like that explosive, that super explosive one kick knockout, one punch out. Like I'm gonna just try to like break his will, try to impose my will of like, okay, using this grappling heavy style. And he did. He had the perfect first round where he just kept on elbowing him and cutting the swelling and the cuts on the eye. Oh man, that swelling was crazy. But getting with the elbows, getting with the punches, getting with his tight elbows and kind of really cracking him and making him work. And you could see it worked in the first round because PSD was exhausted after trying to fight off his back for 5 minutes. 5 minutes, that's a whole song. That's a got beat to a soundtrack. Like, you know what I mean? Even if you're wrestling, 3 minute period, that's literally wrestling almost 2 rounds.
Yeah.
To anyone who says, "Oh, that was just 5 minutes," I tell you this: wrestle for 1 minute. Go put 60 seconds on the clock and go wrestle. Tell me if you not if for someone who's never wrestled before, that's gonna your gas tank might be shot. You know what I mean? Like wrestling for like
Yeah,
around
you don't even
90
have
seconds.
to wrestle. Like if you don't have a frame of reference, just like find an open space and do like sprawl drills where you get down and push your legs back and then get back
Yeah,
up. And do those at like a healthy pace for 60 seconds. You're gonna be real tired.
yeah. Shoot takedowns, go sprawl, go do shark bait with someone real quick, and just kind of 90 seconds. Just go lights like go live with somebody. Do some live wrestling. It's kind of like go for a takedown. Go for a sprawl, maybe kind of like scramble to, do some scrambling, you know what I mean? Whatever it may be, you won't realize in 90 seconds that you are very tired. So 5 minutes of that, you saw BSD get up and was just like he looked exhausted. His coach said, "Hey, you can tell they did the translation. Said, hey, don't sit down. Hey, stand up. Hey." They walked him over and said, "Hey, don't sit down. We get you this water." BSD said, "Bump all that. I'm sitting down." He didn't even listen. He sat right back down on that stool. And I understand wrestling off your back for 5 minutes and just catching just
Yeah, I'm
elbows.
I'm sure the cut men were also very grateful that he chose to sit down instead, so that
Yeah.
because he had like two cut men over there. One of them
Yeah.
was just working on the swelling, and the other one was trying to mop up all the blood.
Which is crazy. But also you saw BSD's toughness too.
Mm.
Because I think any weaker like a weaker man would have definitely folded.
Oh yeah,
Like because he, both of his eyes were almost swollen shut after 2 rounds. And BSD was like, he put the mouthpiece in, he bit down on his mouth guard, kept his hands up, and was ready to keep on going, which just shows the heart of a warrior. You know what I mean? The heart of a lion to
yeah.
keep
And
going.
in the second round, you could see how much Moicano, how much energy he gave, and especially with the shoulder injury, where
Hmm.
it's in hindsight that's super gross. The whole top part is sticking
Hmm.
up and out and is dislocated. But you could see in the second round where it's he gave a lot to that first round, where the second round he just had to kind of okay, looking at the shots, like throwing a little bit, but not don't commit to anything too heavy. Keep the space nice. If you and in the second round he went for some takedowns, but the second he didn't get them, he bailed on. He said no, no, no. Like this could go a full 5 rounds,
Hmm.
and I committed to the first one that I got, but in this second round I can't commit to a shot like that again and keep my gas with this shoulder injury for another 4 rounds. It's not going to happen. So the second BSD started to like shove the head or get his arms down there and interfere, Wakana would just let it go and stand back up.
It's a smart decision because one of the big rules of wrestling, the rules always tell that I was always told, hey, if it don't after 3 seconds, if it don't work, do something else. If you
Yeah,
go for a double leg and that don't work within 3 seconds, time to do something else. If you go for a single leg, you going for a high crotch, you going for whatever it may be, firing this lateral, whatever. Hey, bro, 3 seconds and 3 seconds don't sound like that a lot, but you're using a lot of energy, and it's a smart decision too because I think that, and to circling back real quick, when we were talking about like BSD getting taken down super easy, I think the same thing that happened. It wasn't like, oh man, I'm going for a double leg or a single leg or like going for a trick. Like really, uh, he really caught a body kick because BSD went for a body kick to the side, and Moicano capitalized on that and used that to like grab it, pull it, and then swing around him and kind of like drag him to the mat, drag him not to the mat, drag him to the canvas. You know what I mean? To essentially, I guess,
yeah, same deal.
yeah, same deal. Canvas, drag him to the canvas. Um, and you know what it was. It felt very similar to the Cyril Gahn versus Francis fight
Hmm.
because Cyril was winning the fight when it came to the striking. Cyril was beating Francis as far as from a striking standpoint, right? And I believe Cyril went for either a body kick or a head kick. I think it was a head kick or whatever. Remember, he went for that kick, and Francis pulled that like Uno reverse and was like, "Ah, bet you didn't guess I was gonna wrestle."
Hmm.
And when you have two fighters at the top of their game, who are the top, the slightest advantage is what could tip the odds, and that's kind of what ended up giving Francis the victory. Like that winning him that round is that like, hey, he went for that kick and was able to like get him off balance and use that kick to kind of go for the takedown. Similar thing with Moicano is like he caught that kick and just happened to get him. Boom, got around him, kept it tight, and then drug him to the floor. And once he got him to the floor, he said, "I'm gonna make the most of this opportunity." Um, I do think it was a smart decision by the ref to call the fight and do a
Yeah,
doctor's stoppage because while BSB was down and he had the heart of a champion, heart of a warrior, heart of a lion, like the lion's heart, you know what I mean? The heart of a lion to like just be like, hey, uh, do or die, hey, put in this mouthpiece, I'm gonna go get it. Um, Bite down in the mouth guard, keep your hands up, chin down type situation. Sometimes you got to look out for the fighter. This fighter's never going to give up on themselves. Most fighters, you know what I mean.
Mm.
The fighters generally not a fighter is never going to give up on himself, or most. Um, the so you got to be able to step in and kind of be like, hey, I'm looking out for your own good because you can't even see out of your like right eye, and you can kind of not really see out your left.
I mean,
You
I
know what I
know
mean?
that with a doctor, especially, that that seemed to be the deciding factor that he couldn't see out of, I think, his right eye.
Hmm.
But to me, it was more the reason that I think it should have been stopped was more the location of the cuts because
Hmm.
I think it was on that right eye. It's he had on the brow he had one,
Hmm.
and then on the lid itself he had one.
Hmm.
And I mean, it was scheduled for 5 rounds, so you, you're gonna let a guy go out there with a cut on the lid and on the brow for another,
Completely closed.
yeah, for another 15 minutes. I mean, what's gonna happen realistically is Moicano just has to touch it a couple times and it's going to reopen. And if cuts are reopening on your eyelid, I mean, that's
Hmm.
when you get into the territory of talking about like real damage to your eye and not being able to protect it and then maybe not being able to see in future. And I know, some people that want all like blood and guts will say, oh, but Bisping fought with one eye. The one guy who fights in Abu Dhabi,
Hmm.
he only has one eye. But we should not we should celebrate the heart in that Bisping fought with one eye and all that, but we should be trying to actively avoid that happening again. That's not a great thing that Bisping has a glass eye now. Like that's not a crowning trophy for the sport that happened to Bisping. That shouldn't have needed to happen in order for him to have his career. That's not a bright spot in the sport that we had a guy who become champion with one eye. It's it's a great example of who he is and of the determination and all that. But it should not have come down to it that this sport took sight from somebody. We don't want that.
Yeah, you're so right because yeah, it's a testament to Bisping's like toughness and like the courageousness and the heart of a champion, but it shouldn't ever get that far.
Yeah.
The I think that when there is damage to your eye, right? Like I think at the end of the day, yes, you want to win. People want to see exciting fights. They want to see like a barn burner, but also at the end of the day, this is just a sport.
Yeah.
Like these people have lives. You know, you have your whole life to live. You know what I mean? Like they say, live to fight another day. You know what I mean? You don't want to like cause yourself. You don't want to cause someone to get caught have an irreversible injury or damage to an eye or something like that, where it's like post your fighting career, now you are like your life is forever changed. You know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
it's like
Especially the guy's only 28 years old. He still has plenty
exactly,
of good years in the sport to get
exactly.
back to that mountaintop and plenty of years of development still. We've seen plenty of people who are pre 30 become a different person after 30
Hmm.
and even have late prime runs. So he's nowhere near done in this sport where that was his big opportunity and his only chance. No, it's he'll have plenty of chances. People still want to watch him fight, and it's there will be more days, there will be more
Yeah,
fights, there will be more main events probably.
I think so too. Yeah, yeah, you hate to see when people catch like those really bad injuries, like yeah, an eye injury or like that shin break. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like yes, sport is a sport at the end of it, but also you got lives to go back to, family to go back to, friends to go back to. You know what I mean? You want to make sure that everyone's like uh get back, you know, to you know what I mean,
Yeah,
like can get backwards for lack of better words, but yeah, it should get to that far. So yeah, I think it's a. I know the crowd booed the result of the doctor stoppage, but again, we at the end of the day, you got to look out for the what's best for the fighter, you know.
Yeah.
And I think in this case, it was to save him from potentially getting more injured
Yeah.
and potentially a more serious injury. Because okay, now okay, you hit some ice pads, get some swelling. I know as a fighter, you don't want to win that win. As a fighter, you don't want to lose that win. You want to be able to be like, oh man, like it's out of my control. But also again, live to fight another day.
And if you think about it, he might have a faster fight turnaround because of how the fight ended than his opponent. Because Moicano's
Mhm.
going to need to have surgery to
Shoulder
put,
surgery.
yeah, to put the shoulder back in play. Because you can't just walk around with your shoulder dislocate. That's going to be a strong hindrance to any fighting. So he's going to have surgery, and like shoulder surgery is no joke. It's those are pretty long recoveries usually. So at least it's he's put himself in a really good place, but it might be another year before we see Moicano. But he definitely went out in style.
Yeah, that's still crazy to me. It's still insane to me to know to look back on that fight and realize Montano was fighting for 10 minutes with a broken shoulder or a dislocated shoulder. And the first round, Moicano's I scored it a 10-8 round.
Yeah,
And to go to literally have a main event fight with a broken or dislocated shoulder, I don't know what the exact it's like the depth of his injury, but it was bad enough where they're like, hey, you need to go to the hospital now, which is crazy. But well wishes, and we hope a fast recovery,
and he did the
like quick
entertainment
recovery.
again.
Yeah, and
It's the post fight interview. He was going off about the government and all this stuff. And unlike
speak.
Brian Battle, whose callouts I can't remember, I do remember his callouts because he said Patty Pimblett, easy money, Dan Hooker, easy money, and
Mhm.
he said that thing. How did Dan Hooker's like a turtle in a tree that he top five? No one
I
knows
don't
how he
remember.
got there, but someone put him.
Man, I remember the Patty Pimblett and Dan Hooker call up. I didn't remember the turtle thing. That is funny.
He
But
might have said that in the
the
post fight press conference. He either said that like right after the fight or in the post
uh
fight. I couldn't remember, but it was a sick line.
yeah. Real quick, wishing fast and speedy recovery for BSD and Moicano. Hopefully, y'all both feel better.
Yes.
Um, and moving on to the card that we've all been looking forward to. The UFC is coming to Salt Lake City. We got Alex Pereira versus Khalil Roundtree. We got Juliana Pena versus Raquel Pennington for the belt. We got Kayla Harrison taking on Caitlin Vieira. We got Kevin Holland taking on Roman Dolidze. We got Jose Aldo, the King of Rio, your guy, taking on I let me make sure I say this person's name correctly because I don't really look at
It
it.
is Mario Batista.
Mario Batista. Let's see, and then who else is on the main card? No, that's everybody on the main card.
Did you do
Oh yeah, and
comparison?
Joaquin Buckley, and then on the headlining the prelims, everyone's favorite, the nicest man in the UFC, like the golden boy, you know what I mean? The Wonder Boy, Golden Boy, the Wonder Boy, everyone's favorite boy, you know, fan favorite, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson against Joaquin Buckley. I feel like Wonder Boy is one of those people that like
Can I
is
just say
probably. Huh?
Before we get into the headline of the prelim, I would like to make one one thing known. I think it's
Hmm.
super disrespectful, Carla Esparza's placement on this card, by the way. Like, it's so disrespectful. She's on the early prelim. She's the second fight. She's fighting Tisha
Oh
Pennington,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
formerly
yeah,
Tisha Torres.
yeah, yeah.
Like, she just lost the title not that long, and they threw her on the early prelims. I was like,
Oh yeah,
oh,
the
you thought you
second
were going to
fight.
have a boring fight? Cool. Early prelims, back of the bus. Like,
almost
oh, man.
the almost the very first fight of the early
Yeah,
prelims. She's second fight. It's yeah, that is yeah. I did not realize that they have her as the second fight of the early prelims.
that's what I mean. They must have been sick when she won the title because, like, that's rude.
Yeah, that is yeah, that is wild. The and then Ryan Span versus Open St. Preux, and then side note, yes,
Mhm.
that is low key rude. That's wild to go from main event to the second fight on the early prelims.
Yeah.
The but I will say for Wonder Boy is probably the nicest person in the UFC. One of the nicest humans ever. What do they call him? The NMF,
Oh, yeah.
nicest mofo, nicest
Mhm.
like I think that it's one of those things where I feel like if someone told me, if someone was like, oh, I don't like Wonder Boy, I'd be like, I would have to judge that individual if they said that they didn't like Wonder Boy. Like, okay, maybe because he has a cool style. His style of kickboxing, his style of karate, uh, is really cool. He has a very interesting fight style, cool fight style to watch, and also he's one of the nicest human beings ever. Like, it's hard to hate Wonder Boy. He's out here helping the kids in the community. He's out here putting on show, like you know what I mean. Like outside
Mhm.
of fighting, he's out here just teaching the next generation martial arts, driving them around that. Like yo, if someone told me they didn't like Wonder Boy, I'd be like, ah. If they was like, I don't like him as a person, I'd be like, ooh, I might have to judge that person. I'd be like, ooh, maybe you look at someone kind of funny if they told you they didn't like Wonder Boy. Would
Yeah.
you agree? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. There's just no reason. He's not said anything or done anything that anyone could really object to ever.
Mhm.
So unless they knew him really personally and they're like, nah, he's personally wronged me, like maybe I go, okay, like weird, but okay. But as far as someone not knowing him, just be like, nah, not for me. What's not for you? Like smiling, happiness is not for you?
Positivity is not for
Yeah.
you. Helping the community and helping the little kids, helping the kids, being there for the kids. That's not for you. Being a being, making a positive impact on your community is not for you.
I feel like that person would also be, oh man, I don't like sunshine or puppies,
Or yeah, not a fan of seeing sunsets. Not a fan of
theme parks.
water parks. Not a fan
Uh,
of go karts. They're probably just like, nah, not a fan of freshly baked cookies. You know what I mean? Like freshly baked bread, baked bread. English, jeez. It's like, nah, I'm not a fan of getting of that of payday. It's Friday, your paycheck just hit. Not a fan of it. Like that, I think that is a wild thing. Not a fan of like when you go into a pizza and they got you that your pizza just finished. They gave it to you hot and ready. Yo, like they'd be like, nah, give me the cold one. It is such a yeah. They just yeah. I think that would truly befuddle me if someone told me that they just didn't rock with Wonder Boy. I might have to not rock with them.
yeah. It'd be like if they would say, oh, you know what I love? Room temperature soda. Like,
Yeah, room temp milk.
yeah.
Like, yo, that's wild business.
Yeah.
And because it's such a wild thing because Buckley, I know Buckley said he was just trying to build the fight, but when he originally said Wonder Boy and as nice as he seems in the media, I immediately was like, oh, that's Cap. Like,
Yeah.
I just was like, I can't, I took that with no credibility. I was just like, that's probably a lie. I was like, I don't know. I couldn't believe it. I was like, it's probably just selling the fight. Like, there's certain people, if they would have been like, oh, Kobe Cummins is not a really nice guy, you'd be like, oh, I could see that. And they said, uh, who's another really like person that tends to get under people's skin? Um,
I
if
could
they said that,
see. I don't think I'd have a problem with him, but if someone said like, "Oh, I don't mess with Henry Cejudo," I could see like,
yeah,
yeah, he might have done something. He might have done
yeah,
something
like,
that made you upset or
yeah.
aggravated.
Maybe you don't like the cringe. Maybe you're just like, that it just wasn't a really cool interaction. You'd be like, okay, everyone has their moments. Okay, cool, right? But if someone was like, I met Wonder Boy and I wasn't a fan, I'd be like, well, what'd you do? It almost feels that like it. I know we've gone on about this for a while, but it just feels that kind of like he is uh, just that nice guy. He is all about positivity, helping people, being a good human being, but also being a like epic martial artist. So I feel like it's one of those things where I think I might be like, hey, um, but enough about how great of a human Wonder Boy is. I think that this fight is also very interesting because they're both strikers. They both put on a show. What Joaquin Buckley had that crazy spinning, jumping back kick, the ninja kick that I like to call a couple years ago, and he's really been performing at it. But um, I think that Wonder Boy's a tough puzzle to solve. He's very elusive, very good strikes, very fluid striking. Um, Joaquin Buckley said he's going to take him down because that would be the smart decision, and it is. But I think that it might just be like OG bias, but I think that I say Wonder Boy wins. Maybe that's just a fan in me, like the being like, man, Wonder Boy's got this. He can still make a run for the title, like because have you heard? It's crazy how long Wonder Boy's been in the league
Mm.
in the UFC. He is the second oldest fighter on the roster outside of Stipe Miocic. Stipe Miocic. Out of Stipe. Stipe is
Yeah,
42.
yeah. It's Wonder Boy's
41?
41, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I've been watching this. Huh? Go ahead.
it's it's tough, man. It's Buckley's 30.
Hmm.
It's they're both super skilled, obviously. It's I just don't know. At 41, it's different people have different ranges and longevity and all that in the sport and their physical prime and how long they can extend it. And Wonder Boy seems like he does all of the things that you could do to, promote being in great shape and keeping sharp as much as you can. It's moving every day, getting the work in, not doing anything extra that's like wearing on him. So it's it's one of those things where you go, how much is still possible at that age? And then part of your brain goes like, well, if someone can, it might be him.
Hmm. I think that would be. You remember how great of a feeling of seeing Glover Teixeira
Mm.
like accomplish his lifelong dream of becoming a champion at 42? Like that was like a real big Cinderella moment. You know what I mean? When he got the belt and everyone was like, DC was tearing up, people in the crowd was tearing up. You know what I mean? People was really like cheering for him. I think that would be a similar moment if Wonder Boy was able to get past Buckley and then let's say go on to fight like who's another person at 170 that would potentially be a good fight? I mean, like, let's say JDM, and then you
I was
fight for
thinking
the belt.
maybe like Costa.
Costa, yeah. Wait, Costa? Is he at 170?
Oh no, my bad. I don't know
I
why
don't
I was
know
thinking him. Let me
yeah, I
see.
think maybe JDM jacked out Madalena, I think, and then you beat some up and coming prospect like that. You beat if you beat Bull, get the rematch with Bilal, beat him because people don't realize how long Wonder Boy's been doing this. I remember watching Wonder Boy fight when he was like fighting for the belt. You know what I mean? Like
Man, it's tough. It's
fighting
everyone who's
Tyrone.
in front of Wonder Boy in the rankings. Like
Hmm.
almost all of them are grapplers.
Yeah, Shafkat, uh, Bilal,
Bilal, even Leon
um,
shown really good grappling.
yeah,
Usman,
uh, Usman,
Shafkat, JDM,
yeah,
Colby, Sean Brady.
Kobe. Because I
It
feel like JDM's a striker. He's a boxer at his heart.
Yeah, but it's I think even
Right.
he is more kind of well rounded. It's
Uh-huh.
I would say probably the only guy who's ranked in front of him that maybe wouldn't grapple would be Ian Gary. But didn't Ian Gary grapple in his last fight?
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of a tough path, which like Wonder Boy has shown a good ability to not get taken down. Especially like if you remember those title fights with Woodley, like he
Hmm.
was super tough to take down, even though Woodley was a very good wrestler.
Hmm.
But at 41, how's your takedown defense against like Bilal and Leon and Usman and all those guys who are younger than you and who might be quicker?
That's the crazy part. If somehow it worked out and he got that title shot and he was able to make it happen, ultimate feel good story of the year. To see a dude who's just been all about peace, love, and positivity that finally break through at 42. Tell me that doesn't win like you wouldn't feel that just a little bit. It'd be like, ah man,
Oh, look, if he managed to win
feel
this
good
weekend,
story.
I would feel really good about life, about him, about everything. However, I just don't see it. I think Buckley's faster than him, and I think like
Mhm.
the speed with the strength, and once he gets in close, the grappling. I just think Buckley beats him. I'll go by decision. I don't think he'll finish him.
I think that me, the fan, wants Wonder Boy to win. Me, the fan of the sport, like of the sport, just someone who just watches the sport
Mhm.
on a. I would say we're on the fan fairly deep level. Who as a person who watches the sport, as a fan of the sport, I think that like being objective, yes, Buckley does pose a lot of challenges. Younger, faster, stronger. You know what I mean? Has the skill set. You know what I mean? Does is saying that he's going to wrestle, and I think that the 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 tell of the fight, the kind of like how we're going to see how this fight's going to turn us, how Wonder Boy responds to the first takedown. I think that will tell how the fight's going to go. If he can stuff that first takedown, okay, we got ourselves a fight. But if he goes down and he can't get back up the entire round, I think that might be a long night. But I'm having faith in the legends of old, and I'm gonna say Wonder Boy second second round head kick TKO. So it's a
But
bold prediction. It's a bold prediction, but
it is bold, and I'd love that for you. I just can't see it.
I want to believe.
Well, speaking of, it's someone who's going to need a lot of belief this weekend is Ketlin Vieira. She's gonna need to dig deep and show a lot of believing and maybe some like heart of the cards or something like that. Like she gonna need something extra when she faces off with Kayla Harrison.
Gotta believe in Joe Hendry.
She's
But
gonna need
no,
some
like,
Pokemon friendship or something.
yeah, she's gonna need that anime power, that anime friendship and family power up.
Uh,
You know what I mean? Like, she's gonna. I think, yeah, she is a good fighter, right? Like,
hmm,
jiu-jitsu black belt, judo black belt. You know what I mean? Like, she is a hard fight for anyone, right? She's number 2 in the rankings, right? I think anybody else, she's going to. I think going against anyone else, she is a very tough fight, and I think that she's a tough fight for anyone, right, in this
hmm.
division. However, that being said, comma slash, uh, Kayla Harrison is, if I'm not mistaken, which I'm pretty sure I'm not. I feel like very strong in this. I'm pretty sure I'm right on this one. Kayla Harrison is the only person, man or woman, in like U.S. Olympic history to win back-to-back gold medals in judo. That means for 8 years straight, Kayla Harrison was the best judoka on the planet. The best one in the U.S., and not just the U.S., the best judoka, the best judo practitioner in the world for almost a decade. She came to the PFL, went 17-1, came to the UFC, jumped into the deep end, and dispatched Holly Holm. And that fight looked like they weren't even in the same stratosphere. Kayla Harrison is a future champion, in my opinion, right? She has the strength advantage, she has the speed advantage, she has the grappling advantage, she has every advantage you could think of. Like, she is walking in with level 99 armor and weapons, you know.
Hmm.
Uh, but also, I think like Kayla Harrison, she has the striking, she has the grappling, she has the cardio, she has the personality, she has the charisma. Like, she has everything that's like you'd want in a champion. Like, I think us as fans, we're just waiting for the Kayla Harrison versus Juliana Pena fight for the title. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, I think that's what most people want to see, because I think that both Juliana and Kayla Harrison has breathed new, fresh, like new life, or breathed. It's like a fresh breath of air to this division that
Hmm.
in a way has gone stale in a bit, you know. I think that they bring that new life to the division, or like the return of Juliana Pena and the arrival of Kayla Harrison. I think will do a lot of good for the bantamweight division, you know.
And because
Um,
of them, the possibility of the return of Amanda Nunes.
exactly, makes things very exciting, because if we're looking at it, I think that what is like that would make for a very exciting um division, because
Hmm.
like if you look at strawweight and you look at flyweight, both those divisions have at least 4 people who could sell a pay-per-view, 4 maybe 5, right? You look at flyweight, it's Valentina Shevchenko, that's a draw.
Hmm.
You look at Alexa Grasso, the one and only, my girl Alexa Grasso, like, she's a draw, right?
Hmm.
You look at Rose Namajunas, draw. Natalia Silva, future champion, she's a draw, right?
Hmm.
Um, I would say even like an Aaron Blanchfield, you know, like that. I think that she's on the verge of that, but especially the
Well, even
Valentinas.
you have some other ones who are region dependent, but could
Yeah,
definitely be high up on a regional card, like Fioro in France.
and Fiero in France is a draw, right?
Hmm.
You look at the strawweight division. Wei Lee is a draw. Everyone
Yeah.
loves Wei Lee. Tatiana Suarez, draw. Jessica Andrade, another draw. Lupi Godinez, future champion, in my opinion. We've talked about this many times. She's a draw. You know what I mean? Uh,
Mackenzie Dern.
Mackenzie Dern, Another draw. Sorry, I gotta. I was looking at the thing because there was a thing. Mackenzie Dern. Another draw. I had to swipe the next screen. um, Mackenzie Dern. Another big draw. We have Tabitha Ricci, Amanda Ribas. All these are draws, and depending on the region, like you said, Marina Rodriguez and Amanda Lemos
Mhm.
in Brazil, those are draws. But for the bantamweight, because that if I remember that correctly, that's bantamweight, right? For the division that Pena's in.
Yes.
Pena and the bantamweight division, there's only two people who are draws,
Yeah. It
and that's
it's
Juliana
just
Pena
mhm.
and Kayla Harrison. Of the top 15, top 10, it's only Juliana Pena and Kayla Harrison, and then like Norma Dumont is also a really dope fighter,
Mhm.
and I feel like that one's more of a region one. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I feel like hardcore fans, we know Norma Dumont's awesome. We know, like, hey, she shows up, she'd be bombing. Um, Irene Aldana is another really cool, is a dope fighter, but if we're talking about like who can draw a pay per view, that it's definitely not Raquel Pennington. I mean, like, not to be rude, but it's just
Mhm.
like I feel like you put Raquel Pennington against any of these people, against any of the people on the top 10 who is not Juliana Pena or Taylor Harrison, does that pay per view sell? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
Like,
it's tough. It's I mean, even the kind of top matchups, because there's not really anyone for them to draw into, it's kind of hard to put them high up on cards.
yeah,
So the only kind of case you can do it is the one with the UFC set it up right now. So it's you have in on the main card, you have the setup of who's going to be the challenger, and then as the co-main, you have the okay, well, who's going to be the champion for it, and you could tell like the UFC's hoping against hope that we get the Harrison and the Pena because that's the one
that's the
that could make
fans
everything
want.
happen. That's the
Yes,
one where you could put the wires together and it's going to make electricity.
like even at the press conference, it felt like the press conference was for Juliana Pena and Kayla Harrison.
Yeah.
Watching, but this is what I will say too, like you were mentioning, I'll say this really quick before I forget. You were talking about that's the fight people want to see because that's what's can get that to the spark stuff, like, and you're
Mhm.
all these up and comers, they need, who may not know, like, let's say if you put a, not an up and comers, but if you put a like uh Raquel Pennington against a Messi Sasson,
Mhm.
it's a good fight for like hardcore fans, like if you know, it's a good fight. Arena Donna, Holly Holm, these are all good fights. Caitlin Vieira, these are good fights, but will it sell? No one knows. Like no one knows. Like outside of the hardcores, know that it's going to be an exciting fight. Like if you try to build a fight off that, but if you beat like or you do like a Juliana, you could do Juliana Pena against any of these like the women in the top 10, and people are gonna buy that paper. People are gonna buy that paper card. You know what I mean? That card. Juliana Pena versus Caitlin Veer. Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison. Juliana Pena versus Norma Dumont. Irene Aldana. Holly Holm. Maya Buena Silva. You know what I mean? Macy
Sure, but
Chasson.
like you say, it's with when it's Pena versus anybody but Nunez or Harrison, there's no one else to meet that electric wire together to make the spark. So it's just Pena bringing all the electricity and doing all of the media and carrying the whole thing on her shoulders to promote the fight. And then the other person doesn't meet her halfway there.
Yeah, and I think that's what's the really nice about Kayla Harrison, because she's also another person who has that personality, who has that charisma. We talk about that championship charisma. She has that, and I think that for fighters on the way up, I think that those two would do a phenomenal job carrying the division. You know what I mean? Like promoting and like carrying the division and being like running the division. Because I think that when you're these fighters on the way up, right? I think that every Cody Rhodes needs a Roman Reigns.
Mm.
to make it to that next level, become a superstar, right? Like Cody Rhodes was a fan favorite, but Cody Rhodes beating Roman Reigns at WrestleMania made him the face of the company. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Or it feels like, made him a superstar, made it be like, hey, to be the man, you gotta beat the man, as Ric Flair said, right? I believe that
Mm.
was Ric Flair. When we think about like for MMA, right? Alexa Grasso finishing Valentina Shevchenko. Alexa Grasso went from fan favorite, a beloved fighter, to being like like a superstar. You know what I mean? To being like the face of women's MMA in Mexico. Mexican MMA. The Juliana Pena finishing Amanda Nunes, right? You have these people who are like fan favorites, who are people really enjoy, take on these like the greatest of all time, these major big fighters, these major moments. And when you see these fighters that you kind of like are a fan of, who are on the come up, have these like major like upset moments, or overcome these like crazy hurdles, it really takes their star power to the next level. But if like Cody Rhodes beats like uh the Viking Raiders or something, or beat someone, or like, you know what I mean, or they go in, or like back in like our day, right? Like if you see uh John Cena beat it was super big, but like if you see John Cena beat like Goldust, you know what I mean? I mean,
Mm.
like it's so cool. It's like, oh, not Goldust, but I guess think about another one. Uh, what's his name? Dolph Ziggler. You see John Cena beat Dolph Ziggler, you're like, yeah, it's a face versus a heel, and the face won, the hero won, but it doesn't do much for John Cena's career. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo. Conor McGregor, another fan favorite people were looking for, but him beating the King of Rio made him a superstar. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And I think that's what the new life that Pena, Harrison, and Nunes could bring to that division. You know what I mean? But getting back into it because we kind of like got off track, but I hear a lot about people saying Caitlin Vieira's Caitlin Vieira, her being a black belt in judo and like black belt in jiu-jitsu, being like, oh yeah, like she may be able to stop Kayla Harrison's judo, or like this and that. I think people are underestimating Kayla Harrison's accolades and accomplishments, right? Like, or overestimating Caitlin's ability. I think that, like, I'll put it like this, right?
Mm.
I've done martial arts for a large portion of my life, right? I'm a wrestler. Am I good at what I do? Yeah. However, if I were to go against Jordan Burroughs, could I beat, like, if I went in a wrestling match, or if I was in a match, or like
Which,
something?
as a side note, can we just say real quick, holy cow, that guy's career is so sick. Like,
Yes,
he is such an absolute like super freak, standout, all time like Mount Rushmore of wrestlers. What he's doing right now.
absolutely. That's the exact point I'm making. Against the average person, if I was in a match with them, would I win or have a good possibility of winning? Yeah, sure, absolutely. There's probably matchups against the average person that I would probably win very uh maybe easily, or win.
Yeah.
There's a good probability I would win, right?
Right.
Or that because there's levels to it. Like, hey, I do this, and if it's just an average person, or even someone on my level, there's a good chance I'm going, right?
Mm.
But me going against Jordan Burroughs, like, there's a difference between, oh, I wrestle and I do martial arts, against Olympic champion Jordan Burroughs, the one of the greatest wrestlers in our country's history. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, who just
just because
keeps
I
on
wrestle doesn't mean I'm a
beating
beat.
like
Huh?
generations now of great wrestlers who are like 3, 4 time NCAA champions, and he's just like, oh cool, I'm like 40 years old, and I'm just
Mm-hmm.
gonna sun you.
Exactly. Just because I got wrestling experience doesn't mean I'm gonna beat Jordan Burroughs, or my wrestling is gonna, like, yeah, can I put up a good effort? Maybe. But Jordan Burroughs is just such has achieved such unrivaled greatness in wrestling that like if you saw me against Jordan Burroughs is definitely gonna win. There's levels to this. Just because I wrestle doesn't mean you could go against an Olympic champion. Would I put the best effort possible? Absolutely. Would that be an amazing like bucket list thing to be like, oh man, I got a chance to like even just live wrestle with Jordan Burroughs just once? Yes, is he gonna win? Absolutely. There's a 9 out of 10 chance that there's probably a 10 out of 10 chance he would win. But the experience would just be so phenomenal just to learn from him. And I think that is the Kayla that is but I feel like this Kayla Harrison versus Caitlin Vera is yes, Caitlin Vera has a black belt in judo, and that is an amazing accomplishment. A black belt in jiu-jitsu, amazing accomplishment. That is really dope. And against the other people in the division, I think she's a hard fight for them. It could be a hard fight for anyone, right? But a black belt in judo versus being a two-time Olympic gold medal champion in judo, I feel like those are two different levels. And I think that people are not like realizing because everyone's just like keep on hearing people being like, oh, Caitlin Vera is like the judo black belt. It's gonna like neutralize Kayla's judo, and I'm like, what are we talking about? Will she put up the best effort? And can this is MMA. Anything can happen. Maybe she pulls off the upset, but like, let's be real. An Olympic champion, that level is there's just so much of a difference in level, you know?
Well, also, I think people are kind of overthinking it a little bit too. Of like, oh, well, she's a she's a super high level in judo, and she's got a black belt in judo. So, like, how is that gonna kind of interplay and stuff like that? Like, I think people are looking too deep. Like, okay, who's gonna have the physical advantage in every grappling situation with anybody in this weight class? It's Kayla Harrison. Kayla Harrison is going to be
Absolutely.
the strongest 35er on the planet and in the
Mm,
UFC. Like the only person that could
yes.
maybe match her is like Cyborg, and Cyborg can't make 135.
Yeah.
She said as much before. So like this is the most physically strong and some of the best technique that you're going to possibly see. So if there's a grappling situation, Kayla's winning it. It's
Absolutely.
whatever she wants to do, that's what's happening.
Point blank. Period. Like literally, like she, Kayla Harrison was the best judoka on the planet for nearly a decade for no reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you could be the best in your city, but to be the best in the world are very different. You know what I mean? That's like you having a big house and someone having a mansion. Because you got you got four houses, you got a 4 bedroom house, and someone got a 10. Those are two different houses. You know what I mean? I think that people I do think that people are overthinking it where they're just like, oh, this or that. Caitlin, like no, Kayla Harrison, like you mentioned, is going to be the strongest woman in the 135 division. She is the most uh going to be the most powerful, the strongest, most dominant. She's going to be quicker, faster, have more technique. Generally, she's going to beat most women in this division in majority of the areas. She came into the UFC on her debut and dispatched Holly Holm. Like, why are we on the same level? You know what I mean? Like, who just walks into the UFC and what is Holly Holm's ranking? She is number 8 in the world. So for someone to come make their debut against someone in the top 8 and make it look like they should be top 3, crazy work. I think that Kayla Harrison gets this done first round. I'm gonna say first round TKO. I think that is Caitlin. Vera a tough fighter? Is she a good fighter? Is she a hard matchup for anyone in this division? Absolutely. But also is Kayla Harrison. And I think that I think she runs through her, and she's gonna be waiting for that title shot. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the question is how long this fight goes. I just don't see it going the distance, and you got to think for Ketlin, is she going to be able to handle the crowd noise and the the energy of the moment? Because fighting Kayla Harrison with the hype that Kayla Harrison has right now is going to be a completely different experience to any of her UFC fights before. It's the crowd noise and energy in the building on the walkouts, and if Kayla gets the first takedown, is going to be super loud because
Hmm.
Kayla's on this trajectory towards the title, and everything is building right towards it, from the fan reaction to the UFC promotion. Like everybody's on this train right now, and is Ketlin going to be able to stand up to that and fight well on top of it? That's a lot mentally to overcome just to get to the fight. So
And to overcome Salt Lake City's altitude.
yeah, so that's before we even get to like how much that's going to take out of you, and then on top of it, you're in a hard to breathe place anyway. So managing your heart rate and your emotions is going to be really important to seeing this fight through for 15 minutes. I just think it's too many obstacles. I agree with you. Caleb runs through her. I'll say second round. I'll say they make it to the stools, and then second round TKO ground and pound.
I said they make it to the stool, and you're gonna realize, oh, this might have been a mistake.
Yeah.
Because even in the press conference, I mean, Caitlin Veer was very confident. She said she was gonna like, if I remember correctly, I'm paraphrasing, but if I remember correctly, she said she was gonna like, she said Kayla Harrison's cardio wouldn't be able to stand up with hers.
I think
And
after
I
about
was
5 minutes on her back, I think she'll feel a little different.
right, and I was like, Madam, this isn't again the Jordan Burroughs example. I have a good double leg takedown. Jordan Burroughs has an excellent double leg takedown. we we're not. It's very different levels. Jordan Burroughs is the Captain America team. He is of Team USA Wrestling. He's the captain. He is the guy. It's just it's two different levels. I'm good at wrestling. He is excellent at wrestling. He's elite. Caitlin Vera, I'm sure she's very good at judo, but Kayla Harrison's excellent, elite, and has impeccable judo. So yeah, I just don't. I mean, could I be wrong? Hey, if I am, I have no problem apologizing. I have no problem eating my words and being like, "Hey, man, she really surprised us all, and she should get a title shot after this." You know what I mean?
Mm.
If she pulls off the upset, I think it will be one of the bigger upsets of the night, and she should get a title shot. But I do think Kayla Harrison gets it done in the within the first by TKO.
Yeah. Which one do you want to go to next? Because I, I don't know about you. I'm not super hype about the Kevin Hall and Roman Dolidze fight.
I think I definitely am going for Kevin Holland. I do think that he has shown no matter the weight class, he can perform. He shows up. He shows up to fight. He's won at welterweight. He's won at 170. He's won at 185. Now he's fighting a guy who's coming down from 205 to 185. I do think that Kevin Holland in a fist fight, I don't see too many people beating Kevin Holland, and like if it's a fist fight, I don't see too many people losing to him. Right? If they make it a fist fight, um, but if it's like a point fight, I think Roman Dolidze will try to wrestle. It's just the smart decision. You know what I mean? Like it's like trying to like strike with Alex. The smart decision is to wrestle and not get into an ego battle. Um, but I think if it does turn to a striking match, I think it'll be really fun. I think this one has the potential to be like really fun. But I will say Kevin Holland gets it done. Second round submission? No, a second round finish. I don't know if it'll be a submission or a knockout TKO, but I think it's second round submission. Oh, second round finish. Let me put it that way.
As far as a breakdown, I think I'm with you. I think Holland being the younger guy, I think he'll be faster. Um, he has the longer reach. I typically enjoy his striking more.
Hmm.
So, and hopefully from his last few fights where sometimes he kind of accepted being on the bottom and doing jujitsu from his back, hopefully he'll take some of the lessons from that and kind of work his way up to his feet more. Um, I have Holland winning by decision, but I don't know. I'm just not feeling the hype for this fight. Like I don't know what's missing, but something feels missing to me about this. Like usually I'm very
Mm.
excited for any Kevin Holland fight,
Okay,
but
I'm always here for a Kevin Holland fight.
right, but I don't know. This one feels like it's missing something. I don't know if there's like stakes that are missing, or like maybe it's the other fights that are around it that feel like they really mean something or are building to something. I don't know. There's just feels like there's something missing for me with this.
I think maybe because the first fight is such a high stakes fight, right?
Mm,
With Kayla Harrison and Caitlin Vieira, like this really does depend. I think the winner of this is going to get a title fight, right?
right.
And Jose Aldo versus Mario Batista feels like, Jose Aldo is a legend. He's a
Yeah.
living legend, right? Like, and he's going, and then for Mario Batista, if he can win, this is definitely the biggest fight of Mario Batista's life,
Yes.
right? Like, if he can beat Jose Aldo, that is a major feather in the cap. Like, you are now a household name, and especially if he does it in crazy fashion, you know what I mean? Like, this could really catapult his career. But Jose Aldo wins, it's a feel good moment that everyone in the crowd, all of the hardcore fans, and all the fans of Jose Aldo, anyone who's been a fan of MMA in the last 10 years or so, that will make us all happy.
Mm.
You know what I mean? To see Jose Aldo get another win. If he decides if he decides to go for another fight, we'll be like woo woo woo. But if he also decides to retire, we'll be like, man, thank you for the memories. It's been a phenomenal career. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And like and if he decides, hey, I wanna if he, let's say he dispatches Mario Batista and it looks like old Jose Aldo, he's really is like there again, it's gonna make the fans be like, oh man. And if he's just like, ah man, I want a title shot, or I want to make another one last run at the title belt, I
Oh,
think
you
that
know,
will
it'd be a
make
cool
people.
fight
But
if Aldo wins. A cool fight would be him and Sean O'Malley.
oh, I thought you was about to say something else. Yes, that would be a fun fight. I thought you were gonna say rematch with Connor, like you know what I mean, like Connor
I would
Aldo
love that
too.
personally, just for me, but it's unfortunately I've sealed that wall off and I've just come to peace with I'm never going to get that again, even though I would love that so much for Aldo. And I think that if you look at like maybe in that
But
moment, Connor was better than Aldo for that like brief second. But I think when you look at where they're at right now, outside of obviously like the weight disparity is crazy now,
mhm.
like outside of that, I think clearly Aldo's skills are currently much better.
Because I think it's also like when you have two really great fighters. I think it's just it may not necessarily be like who's the best fighter. I think it's who's the best fighter of that night. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like who's the best fighter, who's the better fighter that night.
And
Because
I mean the mental warfare at that
yeah,
point had really gotten to Aldo. Like Aldo's not a rush at you in the first
yeah, yeah.
second type of guy. It's but over the course of a world tour media thing where Connor was grabbing his belt and
Speaking Portuguese to him.
yeah, and talking crazy to him, like you could tell Aldo was on tilt.
And you could, and it surprised a lot of people. Surprised me. I didn't know Connor knew Portuguese, or maybe he just learned enough Portuguese just for that. Um, the I think that for the fight, right?
Mm,
Again, back then, if you looked at it on paper, you say Jose Aldo wins, right? Some people who are fans of the come up with Connor might have been like, "Oh, he wins," and it really just depends who's the better fighter that night. And like, let's say they run it back again, I highly doubt it's going to be another like 3 second knockout, like 3 second finish.
yeah, no.
Um, so I think that maybe they're both older, they're both towards the end of their careers or towards the like later half. I won't say the end, but they're both towards the the fall. If we're speaking about seasons like summer, like spring, summer, fall, winter, I think
Mm,
they're in the fall of it. I mean, they've had phenomenal like careers. They're both kind of getting older in age. I think it could be a good rematch. I think that fight would do numbers, honestly. Um, for all the Jose Aldo fans, they're like, "This is his moment," and then for all the Connor fans, they're like, "This is our moment." Um, but yes, I think it's big stakes for Jose Aldo, and I think that for the Penning Juliana Pena versus Rocco Pennington, that's a title fight. Big big stakes on the line. Juliana wins the fight. Win. She wins the fight. Like she'll be the the second only the second ever woman to win the bantamweight belt twice.
mm,
Second to only Amanda Nunes, the greatest female fighter of all time, which is a crazy accolade to have. You know what I mean?
mm.
And then this is a very contested fight. This is, what I mean, goes back like 13 years back to the Ultimate Fighter, like the first women's Ultimate Fighter season. Alex Pereira and Roundtree, these are big stakes as well. Alex Pereira wins this. This is just like the another big moment for him, right? I think what is this, like 7 title fights in 2 years or 7 title fights in 2.5 years, maybe 3 years, whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's something
He's
ridiculous like that.
Yeah, like, and he's taken on what, like he's knocked out like seven, no, what is he taking on, like seven former champions and has knocked out six of them in the
Yeah.
first or second round. That's insanity. Alex Pereira is like going on reaching mythical fighter status where he's taken on maybe what, seven champions from middleweight and light heavyweight and has knocked out pretty much all of them except for one person, which is Jan Blachowicz. But he's knocked out Izzy, he's knocked out Sean Strickland, he's knocked out Yuri, he's knocked out Jamal, he's knocked out who's is that it? Wait, Yuri,
Uh,
um Jamal. Wait, I feel like I'm missing somebody. Yuri, Jamal, Sean, Izzy. I feel like I'm missing someone. I feel like it's like a fifth person I'm forgetting about. Maybe it's running on 2 hours of sleep, but the I know there's a fifth person somewhere in there, right?
oh, let me see his fights, and I'll let you know. But yeah, like you said,
Because
there's storylines all over the
yeah,
place, except for that one Holland fight.
and and if Khalil Roundtree gets the win, that's probably the biggest upset of the night. This changes. This is a real like Cinderella moment for him, uh, where it's like, hey, the underdog came from behind and had a real rocky moment and beat the guy who was seen as unbeatable. You know what I mean? Like, uh, and take the belt back to Las Vegas. Alex wins. He gets one step closer into that mythical fighter status, and potentially goes on to like what, does one or two more fights and then goes for the chance to be the first fighter in UFC history to go for three belts. Like, so he's dispatched multiple champions. He's knocked out multiple champions at two different weight classes.
Yeah, so he's had
Two,
his last 7 fights are all against guys who were champion at the time or used to be champion or would go on to be champion. So it's Strickland, Adesanya twice, Blachowicz, Yuri, Jamal, and then Yuri again.
Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. I was thinking like, I feel like I'd be knowing this. But yeah, I think all of the fights, they all have stakes on both sides.
Mm.
And I think that for me, I'm excited for it because I think anytime Kevin Holland's fighting is always going to be a good time. It's always an interesting fight. It's always an exciting
Yeah, I
fight.
mean, when it goes
But
off, I'll be hype. But like in the anticipation, I
yeah,
don't know.
there's
It's
so
just
many
like
different
so low
storylines
down.
going. Uh-huh.
Yeah, on the list of like fights I'm thinking about like right now. There's so many more that come first before I get to like that one.
The So moving on to Jose Aldo. Who do you have? Jose Aldo, Mario Batista. I think I already know.
Yeah, I mean, you already know it's Aldo would have to look so washed for me to ever pick against him, especially
Mhm,
against a young up and comer guy. Like the fear factor that Aldo will have over anybody he fights between now and the end of his career is so immense because everybody who he's going to come up against watched him.
Looked
Everybody
up to
watched him.
him.
Yeah, they looked up to him. It's some of them tried to copy him and like we're looking at videos of him and we're like, "Oh, how do I do I want to do that like Aldo. I want to do
Had
this
their
like Aldo.
poster on his poster on their wall.
Yeah, I want to throw leg kicks like Aldo. Like I want to box like Aldo." And like
Mhm.
Aldo keeps reinventing himself somehow as
Yeah,
like
which is
this guy
super
who's had,
impressive.
an almost 20-year period in the
Hmm
sport and he just keeps reinventing himself. So he went from this guy who's like uh super dynamic with these crazy leg kicks that will just hospitalize people. And
hmm
then towards the like last few years of his career, he doesn't really like kick that much. Instead, he's super technical with the boxing. His boxing is as sharp as it's ever been.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
he's doing it down a weight class from where he is the greatest to ever do it. He's the greatest
Oh yeah.
45er ever, and he's actually gone down 10 pounds and is having another resurgence. Like all of the conventional rules of MMA do not apply to this man.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I agree with you. I'm all in on Aldo. I get it, all in on Aldo. But now, the night the nighttime silliness. But but the I am again. Maybe it's the OG vibes. Maybe it's just like me being such a fan of the legends and like the people that we grew up on. Is but Jose Aldo is a living legend. You know what I mean? I think that any fight Jose Aldo's in, I'm going to pick Jose Aldo. Uh, the Just about any fight, like
Mhm.
just about any fight, I'm going to pick him in. And I think I do agree with you. I think that like it is really amazing and impressive that always finds a way. He's finding a way like to like reinvent himself, make himself better. You'd imagine if someone who's reached the heights that he's reached could be like on the best and just work on those. But he's like, nah, let me figure out how can I go from the best to even better. I'm the greatest. How can I go even higher? You know what I mean? Like, so I think that is really impressive. And I do think Mario Batista has a mountain to climb. He has a Mount Everest to climb. Uh, and I do think Jose Aldo gets the win. I think he gets the finish, to be honest.
Oh, I hope so.
That would make me very happy as a fan.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take a win, but if we get a finish too, I'm going to be popping off.
That is called like celebrations. Um, Pena versus Pennington.
Mm.
Did you watch the press conference?
I saw a couple clips where they were going back and forth, and Pena called Pennington like a block of wood.
Yeah, she called her boring. She
Yeah.
called straight up said it like she said like and I mean like she's not wrong. But the I would say Pennington is she definitely I feel like she's worked super hard, to become a champion, right? She's
Mm.
very polite. She's worked super hard, and then like to get to this point, um, has I know she's been kind of resistant to doing like media and like getting into the like the selling the fights, you know what I mean, and kind of going on that. And there's no problem with that because we've seen people like Stipe who doesn't do media, does or prefers not to do media, you know what I mean, or like it just focus on the fights, you know what I mean. Um, but I think that not like it feels. I don't know. Maybe you could tell me. Maybe you felt something different. But I think during the press conference, it feel like you could tell like it was like zero charisma
Yeah,
or
it's
just like not
full.
really good on the mic. Like literally, Juliana said, "Hey, you're not a good representation of the division. I think I could do a better job of getting, promoting the women in this division, promoting the bantamweight division, going out and like showing people, hey, we're the must see division, right?" She said, "Hey, they had to put me on this fight because you're boring and no one wants to watch this fight otherwise." She literally just said, "You're boring." And you know what was there's a myriad of responses you could say to that, right?
Mm.
Like, and Pennington just said, "I'm not boring, you're boring." I'm paraphrasing, but I'm pretty sure that it was along the lines of like, "I'm not boring, you're boring."
I'm rubber, you're glue.
I was watching that like, oh, okay, like at least the back and forth between Pena and Harrison, they were like really, there was some back and forth banter, but she
Mm.
was like, yeah, she was like, "Oh, I'm not boring, you're boring," and then she was like, I think if I remember correctly, she asked Pena, she said, "Who have you beaten?" I feel like for Pena, that's an easy one. The person you couldn't beat.
Yeah.
Like you went against Amanda Nunes, you couldn't win. I went against Amanda Nunes, and I finished her. Like it felt like a very like a volleyball lob. You know what I mean? It felt like a very like a softball kind of being like, "Hey, who have you beaten?" Because she was like trying to like be like, "Hey, do a little trash talk and be like, who have you beaten, Juliana?" I was just like, why would you ask her that? It's a very clear answer to this answer question. Um, but even in the lead up to it, I watched both their interviews that they've had. It just I think that like we were mentioning, I don't while I wasn't impressed by the mic skills or like or maybe just the lack of charisma or maybe being like, oh man, to like sell a fight, even just outside of that, because that has nothing to do with the fight, but just as like a champion, as far as promotion wise goes, eh, it felt like Kayla Harrison and Julian Pinos definitely carrying that press conference. Uh, but I will say this is I wanted to see how this fight's gonna play out, right?
Mm.
Because you can tell me how you feel. Maybe you feel differently. Maybe I'm wrong on this. I'm totally fine with eating my words and apologizing um if uh if Raquel proves us all wrong and Monday morning she like we're doing the podcast. If she wins and she happens to beat Juliana, I'll be like, hey man, she did it. She proved me wrong. But like, who am I?
Mm.
I'm just a dude, right? But I think that you can tell me how you feel about it. But I think that this is the biggest fight in for one of either the biggest fight or one of the biggest fights in Pennington's career. But this is not the biggest fight in Juliana's career, if that makes sense. Where Juliana is used to showing up for fights like in sold out places where people are coming to see her, right?
Mm,
She's used to like the pressure of the media, having the media there, having the crowds there. The crowd is sold out. The crowds are either cheering or booing you on. The high pressure of you got to perform. You are the champion, or like, oh, people are coming to see you. They're here to see you. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you're the main event. You know what I mean? Which does add pressure to a fight. You know, whether people like admit it or not. If everyone's there to see you, everyone's there here because your face is on the marquee. You know what I mean? Like
mm.
you're the card. You're the one of the faces that built this card, right? Along with the Salt Lake City altitude, like you're already battling against. For Juliana's experiences, Raquel hasn't. We'll see how that affects her. Juliana fought. This is considerably not an easy like a by no means an easier fight, but it's a less high, lesser kind of like um not not as intense of a challenge because she went out and did the impossible, what a lot of people felt was impossible, and beating Amanda Nunes, right? A lot of
Mm.
people didn't think she had a chance. You know, I was like, hey, she's got this by finish. She's got this, you know what I mean? Been a fan for a while, been a fan of Juliana's since The Ultimate Fighter. And I remember the season they were both on. And Amanda Nunes, I feel like the reason Juliana lost the second fight is just that Amanda Nunes, it was a strength issue. Amanda Nunes was a lot stronger. Yes, Juliana was very tough and she was very she was always she never gave up on herself. She kept on like fighting, right? And had that pressure. But Amanda Nunes was the strongest woman in that division. She was really just him people with the yeet, get up off of me, one
Mm.
shot, hit her, quitter, you know what I mean? Or even like when they were grappling, she was literally being like, yo, get off me. Just like being like, nah, I'm too strong for that. Raquel Pennington does not have that power.
Right.
Raquel Pennington does not have that speed. Like, so if you're Juliana Pena, yes, she's been gone. I think the big question for Juliana is that she's been gone for 2 years, and how that affected, the ring rust, whatever, right?
Mm.
But you're going against a person who's nowhere as strong as Amanda and nowhere as fast, but then she is a good fighter and she definitely has earned it. She is really like a good fighter, right? She's really
Mm.
good at what she does. But when you achieve the mountaintop, like if you beat John Jones, like let's say Tom Aspinall beats John Jones, right? If they ever fought, right? If you've accomplished the unthinkable, the impossible, and you beat someone like a John Jones, if your next opponent is Volkov, Volkov is a good fighter and he's a tough opponent for just about most people. Is Volkov the same challenge that John Jones was? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Well,
they're both he's ranked really high up and he's gonna be a tough fight, but I don't think they're gonna be that way. And I don't know. Juliana has that like Pena pressure, that Pena power. She's coming, she's pressuring you, got the strength. And I don't know if Pennington um is ready for it. I feel that like that fight was supposed to happen 11 years ago. I don't know how it's happened 11 years. She's definitely, but it is again, no disrespect. Is Pennington a good fighter? She's a good fighter. Yeah, but I just don't know. I don't see a scenario where Pena loses this fight.
yeah, it's.
But what about you?
I agree with you about the main thing that Pena's going to have in this fight is that Pennington doesn't have the power. It's Pennington in her entire pro career has one KO slash TKO victory, and it was her first ever uh, professional fight. It's since then she doesn't have a single win by KO or TKO. So she's not going to have the power to keep Pena from advancing if Pena's stepping on the gas and going forward. And I think that'll open up a lot of grappling for Pena. And with her longer reach and being on the constant front foot, it's the way I see the fight going is just Pena keeping on the gas, going forward, mixing in the striking and the grappling, and she's going to win the decision. It's as far as like big moments, and do I expect Raquel to like not show her best at all? It's she did have she was main event once against Nunez in Rio,
Mhm,
where that was the one where everybody says she quit on the stool. It's
mhm.
she kind of did and admitted as much in the press conference. Um, so that was her big one. And then as far as comparing their losses, they both have losses to Nunez, Jermaine Durandame, and then Pennington has a decision loss to Holly Holm, whereas Pena has a loss to Valentina Shevchenko. So they both have similar losses, but I just think when you match them up where what they want to do, I think it's Pena being first and going forward, and Pennington not having that one shot power to back her off is going to be the difference in the fight. And so it's I got Pena winning by decision. It's I think just weaponizing the pace, pushing forward, mixing in the grappling with the strikes, and she'll get it done either 4-1 or maybe even 5-0.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the pressure is going to be the big thing of this fight. The pressure and the pace, because Pena just moves forward. I mean, like, yeah, because I think what in Amanda's case, it really helped her a lot that she had that power to just hit her once and be like, "Hey, you don't run just straight into this left hook."
Yeah,
But
you got
I
to
don't
back
know if,
off and enter kind of
yeah,
intelligently. You can't just keep moving forward. Whereas I don't see Pennington having the power to make Pena rethink.
yeah, I'm because I was sitting while you were talking, I was trying to think of a scenario where Pennington could win, and I was having trouble with trying to think of is th- is there a route? Is there? Do you feel like there is a scenario or a key to victory for her, or a route she could take? I feel like there's more routes potentially for Pena, and this is not even just like being just like outside of just being a fan, just trying to like look and see like okay, like there's the pressure, there's the pay, like you can go for the takedowns, you go for submissions, go for the striking. Um, Pennington is a good striker, but I don't know if she'll be. Will it be enough to a volume put forward to keep up with the like Pena's volume? And
It's
can she?
looking at the record, I would just say the only kind of path to victory I could see is if you're Pennington and you have a submission that you particularly like and
Mhm,
you see an opportunity to put that on Pena, maybe you just spend all 5 rounds hunting for a submission because it's Pena, since she's been in the UFC, has 3 losses and 2 of them are by submission, one to Valentina and one to Jermaine Durandamy.
mhm,
So, and Pennington has in her career 4 victories by submission, including
mhm,
one as recently as the end of 2021 against Macy Chasson. So
mhm,
maybe that's the path: is spend try and survive, maybe get yourself into those grappling situations and hunt for a submission. But if Pena's wise to it, then that's it. It's I just don't see how she's going to back her up. And if you're not going to back her up, she's going to be taking the front foot and draining down your cardio the whole time, and that's going to lead to you losing a decision. So she could maybe hunt a submission if she feels good about one or sees an opportunity for one. But outside of that, that's all I see. It's the power's not there, and I don't see the cardio or the volume to back her up.
This, and one of the things I noticed, I think both fighters. I don't know if maybe it's both fighters or maybe one of them is since they got that Ultimate Fighter beef. It seems like there's a lot of feelings going into it. I think that like we'll see how that plays out too. I think there's like a lot of high stakes just for them both personally. Like even though yes, the belt is the main goal, but just to say like, oh yeah, if we would have paired up during the Ultimate Fighter, I would have won. You know what I mean? Like they had that. They never got paired up essentially, and they were like roommates in the house, and they have that like beef. Yeah, I'm very curious to see how this plays out, but yeah, I think Pena gets it done. Now, if Raquel wins, oh man, I'll be surprised, and I'll be surprised, and I'll be definitely the first person to be like, oh, I was definitely wrong, and she showed up and put on a spectacular performance. Guess that one wrong.
I feel like we would be saying that, but also I will be completely honest and say that if she does manage to win, I will still be picking Kayla Harrison over her anyway. So
Oh, absolutely.
I will be right back to unfairly saying, good for you, but you will be parting with that title shortly.
Yeah, I think yeah, I will definitely admit when I'm wrong, but I will still go for Kayla Harrison because I really do feel like she's a future champion. I don't see a. I think Kayla's biggest challenge is Juliana Pena. Like the
Right.
biggest thing stopping her from becoming a champion potentially is Juliana Pena, and if the legendary fighter Amanda Nunes were to come out of retirement,
Well, I
oh
think
man, that would be a great fight.
that would be after
The belt.
Harrison would have the title already. I think that's what would prompt
Mhm.
Nunes to come back.
Oh man, would that be a legendary fight to see Amanda Nunes versus Kayla Harrison? Yo, I would be so amped to watch that fight happen. Amanda Nunes is the goat. I remember watching her in the very like during that run, being like, "Yo, she is amazing."
And she's
Like,
reportedly training. So
yeah,
what would you be training for if you don't have something that you
right.
want?
Because when I heard that news of Amanda Nunes training, I said, "Oh, is she coming back?" Like, if you're not training, if not planning on coming back, why train? I think
Hmm.
getting the maybe it just maybe us as fans are just looking too deep into it and like just being like hoping to be like, oh man, hopefully she comes back. But I know that like it seems like she's pretty happy in retirement now. Like her and her wife, they have their daughter, right?
Hmm.
And she seems like very happy with just living the parent life right now. Um, just chilling. But man, that would be an amazing fight. And I think a lot of fans would be happy to see Amanda Nunes come back too.
Oh yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think that would be an amazing fight. I think getting to see Pena Nunes 3, I would be here for that. There's a lot of really big fun matchups or big matchups that could happen depending on the outcome of Saturday's fight. Um,
Well, speaking of fun, we still got the main event.
yeah. Oh man, talk about a fun time. I feel like since I started on the last, I'll let you
Okay,
take
so
the reins on this one.
this one we got Alex Fajera, Khalil Roundtree Jr. Someone's going to sleep. I don't know how long this fight's going to go. I would not expect this to go more than about 10 minutes. Someone's going to sleep. And I like to think like I don't think anyone dislikes Khalil. You know, it's I think
Uh-uh.
that we're all surprised that he got the call, but genuinely, I think that if he were to make it happen, I think people would be very happy for him, and it would be a real opportunity to be, who's this guy who came in and did the unthinkable? Who's the guy that nobody knows about that was out there grinding it away in Thailand and became this different guy? Who is this like soft-spoken gentle giant who just took the head off the face of the UFC and just flipped the whole table over and made the UFC his own?
The MMA tilt that, yeah, turn the MMA world over. Hey, what did I tell you earlier? Every Cody Rhodes needs a Roman Reigns to to become, like Ric Flair said, you got to in order to be the man, you got to beat the man. Like if Khalil Roundtree pulls off the upset, this is his WrestleMania. This is his WrestleMania moment of like Cody Rhodes pinning, getting the 1, 2, 3 over Roman Reigns and then becoming the champion. That's what made him the face of the WWE. I think that this is Khalil's moment. If he does this, this is his Eminem 8 Mile moment. This is his Cody. This is his Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. Uh, this is fourth quarter in the Super Bowl. It's 3rd and 10. It's time to make it happen. You know what I mean? I think that like you need when you're on the top, you need that, like you said, doing the unthinkable, making fans believe. You know what I mean?
Mm.
That like you said, I think were we all surprised when they announced that Khalil Roundtree was going to get to fight the title fight to fight against Pereira? I think that a lot of us were surprised, but I think a lot of us were also happy at the same time because yeah, I don't think I've ever met anyone who said they don't like Khalil Roundtree. I don't think I've ever have come across that. Um, seems like a nice guy. Um, a great fighter. He's explosive. He is quick. Like the striking is very good. You know what I mean? Like he's quick, explosive, he's strong. He has the like aggressive style, like where um I think that it should. I agree with you. I think somebody's going to sleep. I highly doubt this fight will make it to the 5th round. Um, but we also said that during the Gaethje versus Michael Chandler fight, and that fight was probably one of the craziest barn burners in UFC history because I went all 5 rounds. Um, but and then Alex, similar style, very explosive, very strong, very quick. I think that when you have two of the kind of fighters with similar styles, or like kind of like they both got that crazy one shot knockout power, it leaves fans on the edge of the seat like, oh man, what's about to happen? Because it could be a jab, it could be a hook, it could be a leg kick, it could be a knee, it could be an elbow. Literally anything can happen. Um, keeping with the WWE references, this is if Poetan is Roman Reigns, this is his like beating a Khalil Roundtree is a nice one to put in your book to be like, get to that 1,000 title defenses, you know what I mean? Or like whatever it may be, or like or something like that, 1,000 days or whatever it was. This is Alex's chance to stamp his name in the record books to keep on just building that accolade, that record of being like, yeah, yeah, I beat Izzy. Yeah, I beat Yuri. Yeah, I beat Jamal. Yeah, I beat Jan, Sean Strickland. Now I'm beating people who are the next best people on the come up. Cleo Round, boom. You know what I mean? Like, and I think a
Yeah, this
big
would be
win.
his third title defense of
Yeah,
the light heavyweight crown.
and I think what did we say? The people about double champs, you got to at least defend your title 3 times. We say this often because it's too many times nowadays. People will win the belt, don't even have any defenses. They'll be like, I want to fight. They start making that double champ talking. I'm like, I applaud I would never knock someone for chasing greatness, but also, hey, there's some work to do in the division first, you know? and he's beat three in a row. A big win over Khalil, I feel like potentially puts him in that conversation of like I think that talks of him going potentially going up to heavyweight and being a three division champion becomes more and more real.
Hmm.
I think that this has potential to be a barn burner, and I think both guys are going to come in, and it's going to be fireworks like the 4th of July. You know what I mean? They're going to be throwing shots. They're both going to be going after it. I think that it's going to be a crazy fight. It's going to be a good time. I'm very much looking forward to it. I think that being said, I think Alex gets the win. I'm going to say either I want to say a third round KO.
Okay, that's interesting.
No, maybe
It's
second round KO.
yeah. So it's since he's been up at light heavyweight, Yuri made it to the second round twice, and Jamal made it to the first round. So I'll give Khalil enough credit to say he survives. I think he's got a pretty good chin. I mean, in his most recent run, we haven't seen it tested that much, but I'll say his chin's good enough to make it to the second round, and then it's Alex does what Alex does, man. It's Chama.
Chama, vamos lá. This was a long one. There are a lot of things to discuss, a lot of things to talk about. Hope you had a good time recording. We had a good time talking and chatting. Hope you guys come back for another episode. So, if you appreciate us, thank you. Awesome. We greatly appreciate it. If you would like to check us out more, we got other episodes up. And we hope you guys will come back next time. Have a great night. Drink water. And
like, subscribe, comment,
yeah,
do all that stuff. Share it, send it to somebody.
Yeah. Spend time with your friends and family. Do what you love. Chase your dreams. Peace, love, positivity. Yeah.